What is up, what is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video about misdiagnosia. I made that word up. Misdiagnosis. Why everyone actually is still sick, and with pneumonia and other illnesses as well. I'm not sick. I just inhaled a cobweb when I started. right as I began my video, unfortunately. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about obviously illness that many people are having now. Unfortunately, many illnesses, and we're also going to talk about in a broader sense, what the way that a lot of people are reacting to the recent events, right? Obviously, including the election-related stuff, and trying to figure out what is wrong, what went wrong. Where do we go from here, in a more general sense? But then also, I think people are not correctly pinpointing the problem in a broader, like, societal sense, in the general direction for the society and the countries, and kind of fretting about, wow, something is really wrong. It's kind of like when you have, obviously I bring up pneumonia because that's something that is really skyrocketing. It's really gone way up in the last year, in the last recent weeks. There's been a lot of news stories about it. And so that's why I figured it is a good place to enter the labyrinth. It's a good place to enter the diseased bronchi. There's many other diseases in the lungs, not just pneumonia. Other diseases have been in people's lungs that have then resulted in pneumonia, right? Another one there's been a lot of stories about is H5N1, bird flu, avian flu, dairy cow, and other cow flu that's now in many birds and many other animals as well. So, and there's a lot of fretting about that. I'm not saying this, not saying that the fretting is incorrect, because it is a looming problem, a growing problem. But like, why these illnesses are here, right? Like, if diagnosis is like this, is determining like what exactly is causing the ailments. If you get the diagnosis wrong, whatever you do to treat the illness you have, right, is going to be, incorrect. It's going to partially work. It could cause more problems, right? It could exacerbate your current illness. If you, for example, if you diagnose somebody with, who has diabetes, and you diagnose them with, like, I don't know, if you diagnose somebody with diabetes, this is a really weird thing, but if you diagnose somebody with diabetes with sugar deficiency, obviously that's the opposite of what a diabetic needs, to give them more sugar, right? But just as a as a hypothetical, I don't want to get too close to the main topic until I'm at least a little bit of the way into the video, so the algorithm doesn't destroy my videos visibility. But it's kind of like, if we don't have the proper understanding of why everyone is sick, and in the literal sense, like there is just a huge number of people that are sick all the time. And one of the components of this misdiagnosia that I have made up as a chronic serial science fictional author, random acts of unwanted science fiction authoring. Well, it's actually just book writing. You have to make up words so that people will think there's new knowledge that they can buy in the bookstore, and it's just like knowledge production. I'm not saying there isn't new knowledge, but anyways, so if you don't get the one of the problems of misdiagnosis is that, like, if you don't have a clear, like, historical, if you have amnesia, like retrograde amnesia or anterograde amnesia, you can't remember what happened. You can't make new memories, or you can't remember what happened a long time ago, right? That's another problem. I think that the amnesia of, like, what has just recently happened, what has happened in the longer sense, right? That's part of it. The fact that everyone wasn't sick, like, or like the fact that most people were not sick every month. Now it's apparently the norm for people to be sick every month. Toddlers, 2 to 4 year olds are supposed to just be sick, like, all the time. They call it. There's even a word for it now. It's called toddler cough. Where, like, young moms are, like, all talking to each other on, like, Reddit and other online spaces that are just saying, "Oh, is your 3-year-old just constantly hacking?" They, like, never stop, but it's some days it's less and some days it's more, but they're just constantly, hacking and coughing. Is your 3-year-old doing that too? Your 4-year-old, your 2-year-old, and other moms are just like, "Oh yeah, that's totally normal. It's totally normal." It's like, I have a whole video that's just about that phrase. Totally normal. It's like absolutely just like everybody's kid does that. They're just coughing all the time. And it's an entire thing it's not being documented. It's not being officially investigated in any significant way, really, by scientific medical community, whatever that means. It's certainly not being the way that medical world works. Is it takes a long time to get anything through. But that's so coming back to the amnesia, that idea that everyone is sick, especially kids, are just sick multiple times a month, colds, flus, coughs, just like never ending perma phlegm in the lungs. I'm just like under the weather. I just gotta power through this meeting, then I gotta go lie down, and that's just normal. That is not, like, if you believe that for some reason, you have pathologically virus-induced amnesia. You have willful forgetting amnesia. You've tried to, subconsciously just kind of bury that past. Your memory holding your own past medical history, for a variety of reasons. But that's part of the problem, right? A lot of people want to forget what happened in the last 4 years, right? Especially from 2020. I'm trying not to mention anything too directly because I don't want to get this video disappeared. But, like, people would like to forget what happened. Understandably, it's there's post-traumatic 2020 disorder, right? And obviously I'm not talking about the successful presidential, the possibly successful presidential election of Joe Biden. I'm talking about something else, but people want to not revisit the trauma, which it was traumatic. Millions of people died. Millions more were tens of millions were hundreds of millions were permanently disabled, and their life was absolutely upended. Many other things happened throughout the society. It broke. It caused existential, ontological, metaphysical crises in many instances to many people, and people want to forget that, you know, understandably. It's not a good idea, right? It's like if you give yourself, if you have consciously or subconsciously given yourself that memory erasure, if you have neuralized yourself, right, in the Men in Black sense of that, then you will continue to misdiagnose why people are all sick and what to do about that constant sickness, including pneumonia, including RSV, including colds, flus, all these things. There are large numbers of memes going, hey, what was 77 times 6? Oh, it's stupid brain fog. Or there's all these brain fog memes coming up, right? Like what happened to, like, what did I do yesterday? Oh, and there's a brain. It's like a cartoon brain with a giant cloud in it, and it's like apparently it's going around. I just seen several people share that. It's like, what happened to my brain? And so paradoxically, that which caused the neural damage, it's not brain fog, it's not really temporary. That which caused the brain fog is also the thing that is preventing people from figuring out what is wrong with themselves and what is wrong with everyone around them. That's just very, very dangerous. And so I wanted to make this video to kind of, it is, it's holiday season, right? Thanksgiving is coming up. I actually just did a indigenous Thanksgiving panel with a bunch of my native friends. I'm a native Hawaiian myself. And but Thanksgiving marks one of the biggest initial holiday season mass family get-togethers, right? And everyone's going to be having their dry turkey and sad mashed potatoes, or maybe their good food. People are going to be getting together in large numbers, right? In cold weather, a lot of it's going to be indoors, as usual, and we're not, and it's going to be, this things that happen when people are in close proximity in cold weather indoors. I don't know if you recall. Maybe that's also been memory hold, what happens in these instances. But so because we're coming up to the holidays, I'm trying to dance around it, but because we're coming up to the holiday season, right, I think it's important to reiterate. Obviously, I've made many videos about this particular topic in the last several years. Let me just look at some of them really quick. Yeah, I made one basically every holiday season around November or December. I try to make at least one. Yeah. One of them was my Resident Evil, my half Resident Evil review slash commentary about why everybody is sick, normalopathy, and why everything is not totally normal. And the assumption that things are normal is part of why things continue to be increasingly abnormal. Or control thinning, which deals more with specifically why the system that we're in, economic, political, socio-political, etc., the civilization that we're in, which has wealthy people, that powerful people who have an interest in not having healthy, empowered, or existing masses around them, masses of people. They don't really want, right? So there's a political, economic reason why. There's a political, economic reason why people are misdiagnosing, and some of this is for, right? It's because if you keep, just to level real quick, if you can't walk, if you can't move for more than 30 minutes a day, how are you going to protest or stop anything? How are you going to organize? And people say, what do we need to do now? What do we need to do now? We need to fix these problems. We just had this horrible event in November 5th, and things are getting worse. We need to do X. I was just listening to like I think it was like a Haymarket Books, but I was listening to several left organizations, panels, progressives, talking about what we need to do: organize, do direct actions, talk about these topics more. How do we rebuild, our political movements, parties, people power, etc. If all the people are sick, so sick they can't even show up to a Zoom, right? I just had an event this week with my Native friends. Half of the people could not show up because they were sick, right? I'm sorry, I can't. I've got like this. I'm really under the weather. I mean, I'm not saying exactly what. Pneumonia, RSV, flu, cold, something that starts with the letter C. I mean, at this point, it does matter, but like half of the people, right? This is not normal for me either, right? This is not totally normal, right? But like one person was like, I have childcare duties, but I expected 6 people, and like half of them couldn't show up because they were all sick. Actually, no, one of them showed up and they were like, I am really under the weather. I was lying in bed napping all day, and I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna make your event, Silver Spook, but I'm gonna have to power through it. And I could hear them, like their nose was clogged. They sounded really sick. So only one person was not sick, and this is the interesting thing as I think about it now. The one person who was not sick during this panel event I hosted this week was also hosting I think it was Queer Gaming, or it's going to be part of Queer Gaming Con, and was talking about, we're going to have it's a masked event, right? So the only person who could make it to my event, my remote online event, was somebody who was in, I didn't ask specifically, but is somebody who is masking or is organizing masked events and trying to make sure there's online components that are not just streaming the talks, right, and have it more interactive to allow people who can't make it, disabled people who don't want to take risks, people who don't have the money to fly and travel and get hotel rooms. But also, so long story short, every single person, right, every single person that was supposed to be at my event who was not a something conscious person, right? And not a person that every single person that was not at least implied regularly masking was sick. And that's just one data point. Obviously, that's just one my anecdote, but that's not. I mean, that's not. I mean, statistically, it is reflected in the data. There's also several of Holly and my friends are also sick all the time. They're like recently they're getting really increasingly badly sick, like so sick that they're like one of Holly's friends had a fever. Their feet felt like their feet were on fire. It's like what I don't even know how that happens. I mean, you got to be burning. That's got to be really bad. If your feet are generally at a lower temperature than the rest of your body, and another one, Holly's friend's partner, also had like extreme heart rates, sudden extreme heart rates, atypical or walking pneumonia. That and these are again 30 something, never had pneumonia ever, never had anything like that ever. Suddenly getting all of this pneumonia. Suddenly having like 200 BPM heart rates at random times, right? Their diagnosis is, oh well, I'm just having weird new symptoms, right? That's their misdiagnosis. Again, these are people that they're not taking any precautions, or very little precautions. The funny thing is that after they got this severe pneumonia, then they were asking for like a mask, like stylish mask tips from Holly. It's not funny, it's sad. But it's kind of ironic, right? It's kind of like, well, now that you are dying, somebody pointed out what comes after pneumonia is the Grim Reaper is what comes next, right? Because how much worse can it get? Well, that's the end, you know. Sorry to get dark so early, but I mean, everybody who is having regular pneumonia, your life expectancy, even walking pneumonia, your life expectancy has been cut in. Is very short now. You know, in a high probability. I mean, just when you're having pneumonia, it's because your body is, your immune system and your body's resilience, your body's health is just generally extremely bad. That's another misdiagnosis, right? This graphic I have here, let me get the whole graphic here. So this graphic, which is it's just like a general PSA put out by it's a health organization. I can't remember which one, but it says pneumonia is a respiratory tract infection caused by bacteria affecting both children and adults due to unpredictable weather changes that accelerate bacterial growth. That's actually not completely true because it can be viral, it can be other pneumonia can be caused by a variety of things. So one misdiagnosis is pneumonia is something that people get. It's something that people get like measles, right? Oh, pneumonia is like a flu virus. It's not. Like pneumonia is a filling of the fluid with like lungs, filling of fluid in the lungs, pus, and other, it's very dangerous because obviously pneumonia can kill you because if your lungs don't operate, it can cause your lungs to stop operating, right? There's like just general pneumonia, which is like more serious than walking / atypical pneumonia. But it's not caused by a bacteria. So that's already one misdiagnosis. People are reading these news stories about pneumonia, right? If you go look at the news, what does it say? Doctors see rise in walking pneumonia cases among Kansas City kids. I read a article that said 3,000 something like 3,000% increase in walking pneumonia cases among 2 to 4 year olds in Washington D.C. Walking pneumonia is surging in Canada. Is this unusual? Walking pneumonia surges in NJ. Walking pneumonia is booming and targeting the young and poor. Walking pneumonia is spreading. See, this is a problem already, right? Okay, well, at least this one is not quite as bad. It's a series of different types of infections. But the way that the headline describes it, ER visit surge for sick babies 3 days ago. The way that the articles are often describing it, some cases are severe, but many cases people can have walking pneumonia and not know it. You may have these symptoms for some time, and a lot of times they'll resolve on their own. It can, okay, at least at the bottom it says, okay, walking pneumonia can develop from viruses like flu, the one you know who, measles, or measles. So vaccinating against those viruses can reduce the risk of getting this pneumonia. I mean, so there's a lot of half truth. I mean, that's at least, you know, if you just read the headline, if you just read some of these headlines, people might assume that, right, walking pneumonia is spreading, right? The headlines are suggesting that the pneumonia is a disease, right? Like measles or like RSV or like, you know, the cold or the big one. And it's just spreading from person to person, right? So if somebody has pneumonia, you can not get it by not contacting their bodily fluids. That's what's kind of being implied. But that itself is misdiagnosis. That is hiding the truth, right? The pneumonia is not, you know, what is that like? That's like saying saying that the walking pneumonia is spreading is it's kind of like, let's say that, like, there's a neighborhood, right, and all the houses were built like 70 years ago, right, and now the houses haven't been maintained because, you know, profit seeking. It's all owned by BlackRock or some huge financial corporation. They don't want to keep it up for various reasons, and now the houses are full of, they're termite eaten. There's black mold. Mesothelioma cases are huge. The pipes are all leaching, you know, lead and copper, and they're rotting. They're falling apart. The houses are just, you know, the wood is rotten. It's not maintained. They're not safe to live in, right? And the houses are collapsing. But let's say that, like, somebody wrote an article and they said, you know, Springfield district has a spread of housing sickness, right? Houses are spreading. There's a sickness that spreads from house to house that causes all of these that causes your wood and your roof to collapse, right? Stop the spread of housing sickness by vaccinating your house, or like, yeah, stop the spread of housing sickness by, you know, there's a particular cockroach that suddenly destroys houses that's spreading from house to house. If you stop this insect, you know, buy more Roundup and not Roundup, but buy more Raid and stop this insect from killing your house as it spreads through the neighborhood, right? It's not, there isn't, my point is that, like, the pneumonia is a result of your body falling apart due to other illnesses, right? This is how you die when you get AIDS frequently, right? Pneumonia is an opportunistic pneumonia is a result of opportunistic infections as a result of your body falling apart. Like in my example, right? The houses have fallen apart not because there is a new bug that just showed up and killed these houses. The houses are falling apart because the houses have been neglected. And now the houses that have not been repaired, that have not been properly treated, right? The houses are rotten and they're falling apart now because it takes a while for unmaintained houses to fall apart. The roofs were never replaced. Water damage got in, right? It's not because suddenly this week there's a house insect that just kills houses, right? And you can stop it, right? The damage had been accumulating for years, and now the houses are all falling apart, right? But the way, right? And pneumonia is, and let me stick to this topic. Bacterial pneumonia occurs at any stage of HIV disease and at any CD4 cell count. However, as your count, the CD4 cell count is, it's basically, your body's immune system's defenses, right? As your CD4 cell count declines, the incidence of bacterial pneumonia increases, as does the incidence of accompanying bacteremia and septicemia. The latter is especially the case with adenovirus. So basically, like, as your immune system is eroded, right, by the HIV/AIDS virus, which destroys immune systems, in case you don't know what that is, specifically attacks immune systems, then pneumonia will often come in when your body is weak enough. But the AIDS, like my rotting house example, the HIV/AIDS has been, or AIDS stands for acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Your body doesn't have enough white blood cells. Your body doesn't have enough T cells, the B cells, because it's been destroyed. It's being worn down, right? So so the AIDS has been slowly, right? Like so much water percolating through a hole in your roof, right? Right. In the same way that the water, when it gets into wood, it slowly brings about, fungus, and it introduces weaknesses into the wood rapidly. And there's other kind of rot that can happen, but water damage is a major one. And so the AIDS is like water damage in your immune system, right? That's rotting and destroying your immune system. And it takes years. Like it takes years to destroy a house from, neglect and water damage. And it takes years for your body to have its immune system worn down by HIV/AIDS, right? But the pneumonia comes in, right? Years late, and it's not like the pneumonia. So the pneumonia is just the last stage, right? It's kind of like a strong wind that like blows parts of your house down, right? But the wind couldn't, a 40-mile-per-hour gust of wind couldn't blow a wall out of a house if the house was maintained, right? And a pneumonia is always around. There's viruses and bacteria that cause pneumonia. They're always around, They're always around, but your body is able to fend them off. Your body is able to fend off the pneumonia causing viruses because it has its defenses up, right? The AIDS patient doesn't die of pneumonia initially because their body can fend off all of these infections, right? So that's what I'm trying to get at. So I know I'm like over explaining this probably. So, but when I said like, when the way that pneumonia is being described as spreading, right? Walking pneumonia cases increasing, seeing a rise in walking pneumonia cases. I mean, it is true, right? We're having a rise in these cases, but they're hiding what they're not saying, right? What they should be saying. If you wanted to have a honest, truthful diagnosis of what is happening, right? The headline should say, people's immune systems and people's health, masses of people have severely deteriorated over the last 4 years due to largely due to you know which one of the viruses, and because of that, people are getting this catastrophic pneumonia illness. The pneumonia is a sign of how weak your body is, right? The pneumonia is a sign of how damaged your immune system is, right? It's not just a thing that it is not a new pathogen that's rapidly spreading, right? Like, like Mpox was suddenly spreading at one point. There was RSV outbreaks, there's measles outbreaks, right? But the pneumonia is not a new, it's not like H5N1. It's not a illness that is that is having a sudden wave, right? And you could prevent it by I've seen headlines that say, make sure to get vaccinated against pneumonia. Or like scientists are trying to develop a vaccine for this pneumonia. Don't worry. That's just, I don't know who's writing this stuff, but that's just not, that's like saying like, as you are dying from HIV/AIDS and you're coming down with the final pneumonia stages, right? Just telling an HIV/AIDS patient, don't worry, we're going to get a vaccine for pneumonia. That's right. The thing is, it's basically an unlimited potential number of viruses and mutations of them that could cause pneumonia, right? You can't really, there's not a vaccination for that. Yes, you could get vaccinations for a variety of illnesses and such, but if you're immune, another important factor, if you are immune compromised, which means that your immune system is not functioning properly or at all in some cases, which is what happens with HIV/AIDS, which is why people are sick all the time, because, well, they don't have HIV/AIDS. They have another kind of acquired immune deficiency syndrome from a virus people started getting after 2020. But if you have what's the point I was trying to make? So if people have immune deficiency, if they have immunocompromisation, if the immune system is like massively not functional, right? Then vaccinations themselves, right? Another important point to make, because there's a lot of focus on. So another misdiagnosis is this mass focus on vaccinations. Now, I'm not saying that vaccinations don't work, right? But a vaccination, what is a vaccination? A vaccination is a insertion of a weakened version of a virus, right? That is not deadly. It is a sample of a virus. For example, the one for the 2020 disease, right? They use there's mRNA type. There's several different types, but basically, it gives your body the pattern, right? The type of material. It gives you a shape of the target, right? For your white blood cells, right? For your T cells, your B cells to fight against, so that when the virus shows up, whether that's the big one, whether that is there's the measles, mumps, rubella, right? When you get the chickenpox virus, there's flu vaccines. So when the real virus shows up, then your body's soldiers, and I know I've made this point before, but I think it's worth reiterating it. Your body's immune system can then attack, right? If you think of your immune system as like an army of like millions or billions of soldiers fighting against an invading army, that's the virus that you're getting now, right? So, but if you get the vaccine that is training your body to fight a particular illness, but your body's army is defeated, your army is not functional, right? Kind of like the U.S. military. If your white blood cells and your T cells are compromised, right, from HIV/AIDS, other reasons. There's just hereditary reasons. Sometimes treatments for other diseases some operations and some cancer patients will have immune compromisation because of the treatment itself for another illness, right? And if you're on chemotherapy, that weakens your body immensely. And so because of that, your body's immune system is not functioning at all, or not functioning well enough, right? And then no amount of vaccination is gonna save you, right? That's just generally for vaccination, right? Measles is also a disease which directly attacks your lymph tissue, which is vital, is a central pillar of your immune system. And measles erases your immune system's memory of the list of the catalog of targets, right, of things to fight, because your body has to give targeting, right? So that's a whole other problem that happens if you get measles. That it's catastrophic for your immune system as well. But anyway, long story short, so that's why just getting, like, it's not to say vaccines do help people just in general, but getting vaccines is not going to stop. Getting vaccines is not sufficient, right? Getting vaccines is not sufficient to deal with the problem of the problem that is the mass walking pneumonia. It is not sufficient to deal with the 2020 virus, because there is no vaccine that prevents the infection and the long version of the 2020 virus, right? The real damage that you get from that one is the long version, the brain fog, the organ damage, immune damage, right? There's actually a term. It's called C word acquired immune deficiency syndrome. There's the official medical term for AIDS, but not HIV, right? It's 2020 virus caused AIDS. This is actually known. But the thing is, but again, right? That's absent, right? We're not hearing that. We're not hearing that people's bodies generally, their hearts, their lungs, their brains, their skin, their blood, everything has been damaged. Their kidneys, their pancreases, right? Diabetes incidence increased by massive percentages after 2020, right? It's total body damaging illness. But what these articles are not saying is that people have suffered massive damage since 2020, and now they're getting pneumonia, which is caused by a whole variety of viruses and bacteria. And the pneumonia, this is a symptom. The pneumonia is a symptom of everyone's bodies being massively weakened and destroyed. It's not a spread of a new virus. Okay, so in case you don't know that, if somebody tells you, well, if you just X, then you won't get the pneumonia, or if you just get a vaccine for the pneumonia, because I've seen something related to that. That is incorrect. That's incorrect. That's dangerous, right? And again, the topic is misdiagnosis and why everyone is still sick. If you don't know why everyone is still sick and why so many people are getting pneumonia, particularly, you're going to keep exacerbating the problem, making new problems, right? The graph here shows, right? This is the orange and the purple line in this little graph here show like the last few years. This year, the black line is pneumonia, mycoplasma pneumonia activity. That's atypical walking. The difference between atypical and walking pneumonia and pneumonia is atypical walking pneumonia. You can sometimes walk around, whereas when you have like serious pneumonia or just pneumonia, then you often have to be bedridden. You have extreme difficulty breathing. And it's one of the last things you get before you die. One of our friends, Holly's friend, her mom, who is 70 and had the 2020 virus, at least once, right? And then shortly after that, she got pneumonia. She was like 70, I think. She was in there. She was like 70s. You know, at least septuagenarian. She had the big 2020 virus, and then within weeks to months, got pneumonia, and then died. Um, and now her daughter has got the has had it at least once, has had the 2020, and now is having walking pneumonia. Right, and so what's the difference between walking pneumonia, or it's sometimes called atypical pneumonia, and then pneumonia? It's really just like the severity ultimately, right? I think like walking or atypical pneumonia, um, is a non-medical term for the mild form of pneumonia, while a more typical case might send you to bed. That's what is you can't walk. And like when you look at like the lung X-rays, you might not see the walking pneumonia. Um, cough, sneezing, fever, chills, headache, tiredness and fatigue, sore throat, chest pain. It's a lot of the usual. It's a lot of like cold and flu and other common viral symptoms, but you when you have walking pneumonia, you can see spotty patches spread throughout the lungs, right? But it's not like a giant. With pneumonia, like full pneumonia, you'll have like a giant patch of your lungs that is just like deeply infected. But with walking pneumonia, it's just basically like it's ultimately basically the severity of it. But anyway, back to the main point. The time in which the sicknesses that everybody is having, though, right, is not, again, it's not due to, there's a new virus out there, we should watch it. The way to go about, right? So like, let's just say, okay, so let me be more direct now. So if the misdiagnosis is, there's not just one problem, but there's one major problem to why people are physically getting sick. Not talking about the cultural, political, social, spiritual, economic issues, but like just on the physical medical problem of sickness, right? The big one is people pretending like the 2020 virus is gone, obviously, for all the reasons I have talked about. Self-inflicted memory holding, self-inflicted amnesia. 2020 virus caused brain damage that is prevents. One of the impacts of that, right? The mind impacts on the brain is that your ability to think long term, right? Your frontal cortex, sadly, catastrophically, happens to be very close to your nose, right? Which is where the blood-brain barrier between the rest of your body and your brain, is breached. Is from when the 2020 virus gets into your nose, and it travels up this region into the olfactory bulb and that tissue that goes straight into your brain. It actually goes straight to your frontal cortex. The frontal cortex, your neocortex. This is the front portion of your brain, is the part of your brain that is responsible largely for the highest level of thinking, future scenario projection, long-term planning. When you're deciding what to do, like will you become a doctor, or join the military, or will you take a year off? What are the ramifications of that? Like those deep, large-scale planning, long-term planning, short-term, even short and medium-term planning, incorporating huge, because you got to incorporate huge amounts of information to do that kind of thing, right? Like, what is the economic situation like? What is it going to be like in X amount of time? Well, what do I like to do? What will my family think? There's like so many factors, right? They go into these to make those kind of decisions. So, and that frontal cortex is where you make those decisions, and also risk assessment. If I join the military, I could die. Like, if I get in this car, if I go out, if I choose to get in the car while I'm drunk and drive, that would be a bad idea because I could crash, kill innocent people, and or die myself. Get in serious accident, right? So that the risk assessment, because risk assessment is also part of like projecting. If I do this in my future scenario, what are the dangers and problems that could arise? So the ability to deal that risk assessment, right, and incorporating the past into your present situation to project visions of the future, right, including their dangers. I mean, their positives, right? Like if I become a doctor, I could make more money. I could help people, bring about, save people's lives, and that's great, right? But the ability to project is reduced when you get the 2020 virus. Your ability to define, assess risk, right, is reduced. This is why suddenly we had a lot more risky behaviors. Insurance companies determined that there was a 20 to 25 or more % increase in automobile accidents after 2020, right? It's actually, they say that the risk, what is it called? The risk profile, or the probability of people getting into a car crash or doing reckless driving, vehicular accidents. This is according to insurance companies, that they don't mess around. They estimate that getting the 2020 virus and getting the neural damage from that is equivalent to driving while at the legal limit of alcohol consumption. So it's basically drunk. It is like drunk driving, right? At least like right at the legal limit. So like if your state's limit is 0.01 or whatever it is, 0.1, blood alcohol percent. Driving with, I mean, that sounds really horrible, right? But I mean, it's statistically, it pans out. That's why you have, a quarter more vehicular accidents and counting, by the way. And it can't be accounted for anything, right? Except the introduction of this new mass infecting BSL level 3 pathogen that I cannot say. So anyway, so the people's ability to identify what is a risky behavior, right, is decreased by getting this particular illness. The risk, their risks to their health is obviously massively increased. Every time you get the 2020 virus, between 10 to 15% probability you will have some form of long 2020 virus, right? And each time you get reinfected, the percentage multiplies, right? And the long 2020 virus symptoms include, again, brain damage, microthrombosis, basically exploding small blood vessels in your brain. There's so many to list. Omeletification of your neural tissue in your synapses, all misfiring, which is brain damage, brain death, brain tissue death. 2020 virus acquired immune deficiency syndrome, like I already said, which is why people are getting sick more and more and more, which is not happening before 2020. And it includes organ damage, right? 140% increases in colon cancer and many, many other cancers amongst people, even 20, 30-year-olds, not just old people who get the 2020 virus. Your gut microbiome. This is like mountains. It's basically almost everything. Hair loss, teeth falling out, your total autoimmune disorders caused by like damage to chronic fatigue. One of the worst is the what is that? Chronic fatigue syndrome, also known as myalgic encephalomyelitis / chronic fatigue syndrome. It's a debilitating disease that causes severe fatigue, pain, and other symptoms. Extreme tiredness that does not improve with rest. Post-exertional malaise symptoms worsen after physical or mental activity. Unrefreshing sleep, cognitive disorders, difficulty thinking, concentrating, and remembering. Just ME/CFS itself causes cognitive issues. And dizziness, nausea, headache, sore throat, tender lymph nodes, sensitivity to light. Anyway, chronic fatigue syndrome is actually one of the worst things you can get. It's worse than cancer in your quality of life decrease, in the way it hurts your quality of life. When you get ME/CFS, because even if you get cancer, obviously it can be extremely damaging and bad, especially when it's destroying your tissue late stage. But with ME/CFS, but cancer, you can still mostly do things until the very end. If you don't, if you don't set it into remission, right? But with ME/CFS, you cannot right. You can't people there's a lot of movies where people have a bucket list. I want to climb Mount Everest. I want to go to a Miley Cyrus concert. I want to run a marathon, right? Before I go. Now that I got the cancer and I have a terminal diagnosis. If you get ME/CFS, you can't climb Mount Everest. If you have a progressing and advanced MC, you can't climb Mount Everest. You can't go to a Miley Cyrus concert. You can't dance. You can't walk. You can't even show up to Zoom panels sometimes. You can't read a book. You can't watch a movie when you have severe ME/CFS, right? So ME/CFS, it basically it can end your life as you knew it at all. With no, you don't even have a chance to have some years to do fun things. Your life can just become basically a living hell. Immediately. Because people don't realize this, but when you get the 2020 virus, if you get it, right, you can get something far worse than cancer that will immediately destroy your entire world. You know, and your ability to enjoy life at all. Right? Now, it's not a guarantee you're going to get that form of ME/CFS, but that is something that has happened. And many people have chosen to not be around in the world after that, you know. But that's something that but again, that is the misdiagnosis of and the miscalculation of the risk that you take when you are not taking proper scientifically rational medical precautions, including masking, especially masking, and avoiding large crowded spaces, particularly indoor crowded spaces, etc. Not having 2020 virus safe events. And now I know probably some of this is gonna just sound like, oh no, I'm getting a lecture from Silver Spook about how I've been a bad boy, girl, NB, robot or whatever you happen to be. If you're a robot like Ash in we just watched Alien Romulus, also has a lot to do with viral and pathogenic infection, quarantine, and illnesses. I actually feel like that's part of Romulus. I feel like that's the people's part of the normalopathy, right? Which I talked about in this that I showed in this video, not this the control thing one, but normalopathy, like the idea that everything is normal. We have to just act as though everything is normal when it is not normal. It's not 2019. It's not normal. Songbird was an honest movie about the pandemic era. Here, this is another one I made about with. If you want more information specifically on like some other, I'm not the best. I am not a medical expert YouTube channel. Obviously, I'm just like some person who is trying to share information that I think people need. But this is another video I put out like last year. Looking at it now, right? There was a super pneumonia scare last year. There was a the RSV, all these illnesses that come around. The illnesses, there are increasing illnesses, viral illnesses in particular, in the winter months, but they were never before 2020, they were not at the severity that they were after that, right? And so, yeah. Also, immunity debt. We constantly, right? If I just go, if I search this up, there's so much, right? It's always the lockdowns, right? Um, uh, right. It's the lockdowns that's causing the accelerated brain aging. Your brain ages 10 to 30 years when you get the 2020 virus statistically, particularly if you have a severe um, bout of it. We will pay the price. The World Economic Forum, one of the best, most informative events ever, is when multi-quadrillionaires get together and talk about how to solve the world, right? How to solve the problems they created. That's um um uh what impact on the moon. Okay. Um but what I'm trying to get at, there was a lot of talk about how the quote unquote lockdowns. The thing is with these so-called lockdowns, particularly in the West, certainly in the U.S., um, they they lasted less than a year, if anything. They were very poorly enforced, if at all. Um, they were massively not followed, and in the 2020 early 2020s era, um, and they are still right. That's part of the misdiagnosis. They're still being drummed up as people. The problems we're having is because people were asked to not go to work and school for a little while, and it like absolutely right. This is gonna be a forever thing. I think it's gonna be one of those things, right? It's gonna be a forever misdiagnosis that we have the problems we had because people remember it, right? People remember that time, and that was one of the most shocking, one of the hardest, like for many people's, certainly for first world people, being forced to not go to, or not being forced, but being limited from going to a restaurant was like massively traumatic. It was a massively, in their minds, it was like, oh my God, that was such a horrible experience to not go to my normal work and to school and to my restaurant. And like, I'm not trying to necessarily just make light of that. I mean, there are worse things in the world than that. But if you suddenly don't have your normal daily routine, that is, it's a big shift. It's a big change, and a lot of people were like really unhappy with that, right? And they remember that. Like a lot of people have kind of blotted out all the illness and the death, right? And they just think about that time when the clubs and the churches and the 24-hour fitness was closed, right? They think about the times when they couldn't go to the restaurant, they couldn't go to their concert, they couldn't go to their yoga studio. They think about the time when their kids were home. They didn't know they didn't know what to do, right? And I'm not saying that like, you need to be a master of homeschooling or you're a failure as a parent or something, but like, I mean, we do, full disclosure, we home educate and among other things. And so it wasn't a big shock for us because our life here, us specifically at the Silver Spoon Cooperative, was not massively changed by it. We're probably one of the least changed because of the way that we run a home business, we home educate. But if you were used to driving to work, going to your office, right? Dropping the kids off at school, going to your Pilates class, going to work, going to soccer practice, dropping your kids to soccer practice, going to the movies, doing all these things, right? All of that, and like daily being in all of these, public spaces, classrooms, again, churches, wherever you happen to be going for work and play and education, right, and spirituality in your church or whatever, or in your yoga studio, or you're going to your Starbucks or whatever, or hanging out in your Starbucks and programming, whatever you happen to have been doing, all of that was disrupted. People don't want to think about that. People don't want to go back to that. That they're scared. They were upset, right? There's studies that show people really don't want to do that again. I say again, it was never really successfully. They never successfully did a full lockdown. There's another country that did do this, and I won't talk about it right now. But there were limitations to where people could go. People don't want to. People don't even want to people don't even want to think about it, right? What it meant, right? Marriages were disrupted, right? Husbands and wives, and wives and wives. Many people discovered, like, wow, I really don't like my partner, my husband, wife, people in my household in this time, right? Huge rate of divorces and splits, and that was familial splits, right? The children, adult children, like gray rocking or abusive people in their life, going low to no contact with parents. This already was happening, but exacerbated by young people wanting to do Thanksgiving and Christmas who were, in a more safe way, and then other relatives, right, especially the older ones that have different sources of information, not wanting to take the precautions, right? And then that causing that for us, that was a thing. Like, I didn't see a lot of my family. Holly had a lot of falling out with family members over what was happening with the 2020 virus, what to do about it, right? If we're going to get together, how we're going to get together, right? If we get together, not wanting to make other people catastrophically ill with this virus, right? Will I get it? Will I spread it? What's wrong with my family members and friends who are not listening to me? Why are they, right? And all of that, and people don't want to, that like all of that, right? There's so much to say there. I was just reading this five year retrospective that talks about a lot of what has happened. 27 million people have died. That's an estimate. We don't have an exact number. Again, hundreds of millions, if not billions, have been permanently disabled in some way from that 2020 virus. And we can't really, most people in most contexts can't really talk about this, right? People, you can't, except in very except amongst a small fraction of the world, and certainly places like the U.S., except amongst a small fraction of 2020 virus conscious. Sometimes they call it the conscious community. There's the something serious community. It's just big. To me, it's just being medically, scientifically rational and empathetic and doing community care. But it's hard to find. It can be hard to find ways to talk about this. Another aspect, all of Hollywood, right? All the movies and TV shows that people watch, right? Whether that's the you know the what I don't know, Wicked is just coming out now. You know, whatever movies that you're watching, or shows that you're watching, everybody on those sets, because insurance companies, right, the money people do not mess around with the millions of dollars it costs to fund, to pay the millions of dollars for Robert Downey Jr. or whoever to be on a set, right, and all the grips, the screenwriters, the props people. It's millions of dollars a day for a lot of these movies, and it's expensive. And everyone is masked and tested, and make sure nobody is having this illness. And Ben Affleck, right, whose daughter is very 2020 virus conscious, right, and he's always in a mask and when she's been seen. But Ben Affleck and the 90s pop star whose name evades me right now, Jennifer Lopez, right, are not. But whenever Ben is still acting, whenever they are in a movie on the set, they are taking all the precautions, because this is a deep societal illness, psychological illness, right? Which is to be those people that are on those sets are wearing these masks, but then in public they have to all pretend as if everything is fine. That's got to be really right, because they're public celebrity. They are public facing media. They are media, right? They are news. And the news is intentionally misdiagnosing and misinforming people for the millionaires and billionaires that own corporate media. But celebrities themselves are corporate media. What they do, the way that they are, what they are wearing at award shows, what places they support, what pins they wear, that is, right? That is, and if they don't adhere to what, right? If those celebrities don't adhere to what the wealthy want, that pay their salaries, right, then they will lose their job as living corporate media, as celebrities, right? I mean, they're actors, but they have so many eyes on them. Anyway, so long story. So that must be a weird thing to be, right? Okay, well, we know this is a serious problem, so we're all going to be masked every single day on set. Every single person. But when we stop filming Batman or Wicked, when we stop filming Alien Romulus, when we go to the award show, when we're walking down the street for the paparazzi, right? We have to never be wearing a mask. That is deep illness. That's the whole world, to an extent, that is a societal illness. That's a whole other psychological level to this. But anyways, back to this. So people like, but I feel like in Alien Romulus, like, I feel like the writers and directors want to say something, but they cannot, but it's kind of like, it's implied that humanity is having problems surviving on these colonies. Like there's a colony, Weyland-Yutani, the massive corporation, is, having everyone mining and colonizing this other planet out in light years from Earth. Yeah, they get shipped there in cryo sleep. But illnesses, people getting sick and dying rapidly in large numbers. The parents' generation is like mostly died out on this planet, and in part it's due to like alien viruses, right? And actually, Alien, the whole series, has a lot to do with quarantine, viral control, pathogen, unknown, new, novel illnesses. It's like biological horror, but a lot of it involves, right? It's kind of like Ellen Ripley's character is like early on that makes her like one of the smartest and most empathetic characters, or sympathetic characters, is she's the one that is like really demanding. We need to follow proper medical precautions and not allow this person, right, into this ship. They need to be quarantined, right? And Ash, that is the android and alien, he represents the corporation Weyland-Yutani. I mean, as like in my controlled thinning, right? The Ash says, psychologically manipulates people and says, no, we can't. We have to, because Ash doesn't care about them. It will be so hard for them to be outside. It will be so, that's nonsense. We can't, we have to just, like, we have to treat this person. We have to help them. It's actually pretending to, Ash is pretending to have empathy for the humans, but Ash doesn't want that. Ash wants to bring the pathogen on board, right? In the same way that saying, like, it's the corporations that paid the media to say, children, our growth is going to be stunted. People are psychologically, it's so psychologically abusive to stop people from having their needed get-togethers. It's so bad for us as a society to not be mass gathering in our offices, in our schools, in our churches, right? Right? It's kind of like that is the real world Earth Corporation saying, we don't need to quarantine. We don't need to control this. Everyone just come together and let's be a big happy family at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Let's all go on the planes. Let's all go to the vacation spots. Let's all fly everywhere and go everywhere. And we'll just see what happens. While the millionaires and billionaires who own the corporations, who knew what was happening, they themselves were taking precautions. But, right, and that's my Lone Masker video. That's part of the point of that. But for the non-millionaire billionaire class, for the non-celebrities, right, or I mean at least on the sets, but for the non-rich, right, the rich had ultraviolet light. They had 2020 virus resorts where they had like 3 layers. Every single person in contact were having rapid PCR tests, right? They had all the best care. They had all the best control mechanisms. Adele had multi-$100,000, stage disinfecting systems to make sure she didn't get sick, right? And everyone else says, oh, everyone just go back to normal. It's going to be really great. We'll see. Let's just see how much problems don't happen, right? And what happens in Alien is that everybody dies. Now, they don't all die from walking pneumonia, but a pathogen, like in the last 4 years, a pathogen travels down the throats, right, into the torsos, right, in the lung area, actually, of the entire crew of the Nostromo ship. Or one person gets that, and from the torso explodes a horrible, like after the fact, right, in a delayed sequence of events, a horrible creature explodes and slaughters every single person on that ship, except the one person who follows medical scientific procedures and tries to insist on them, but nobody listens to her, right? It's kind of it's Ellen Ripley could be seen as a metaphor for the 2020 virus conscious community, people that are masking, right? It's a minority of the population. A lot of times they're like they're kind of isolated amongst the population. They're less herd mentality, going with the flow type people. I mean, sometimes they're more antisocial or not that social. We're not we don't see the most people. We don't do what is the norm here at the Silver Spoon Cooperative, I would say, even before 2020, right? But the people who tend to insist despite the mainstream narrative and the mainstream consensus reality about what is happening, those are the people who tend to be, or the people who are some combination of that, plus they have already been severely impacted by the 2020 virus, right? Or they already were very ill before that. So there's a lot of like, what makes somebody something, the blank conscious versus let it rip, right? Or just let's just pretend like it's 2019. I'm sure there's some psychological analysis that people have done on that, but it's a minority of people, right, that have taken the quarantining precautions, we have not gone to a single restaurant, movie, yoga class. We don't really go to those. Unmasked event anywhere. We have not had a single in-person family get together in the entire 4 years, basically. Well, we saw my parents about a year ago, or we saw our parents several months ago, but it was outdoors and it was masked. They still want to have an in-person get-together with everybody unmasked, and we just said we it's not easy. It's not easy to do that, because I have, many people have a bad relationship or not great relationship with their parents and with their family, and that's not the case for me. And so it's been, so we would like to see them. They're like, we don't like, obviously no family's perfect, but we're not like, oh my God, I cannot see those people. We're not like cut off, but they do not take they have misdiagnosed with everyone, with so many other people, what has been happening since 2020, and we do not. And so that has made it so hard. Right? And that really sucks. That's the worst part of this whole thing. For the what I would say is accurate diagnosing community of what a problem is. That has been the hardest part, really, right? But yeah, so people's inability to even to even just talk about what is really happening is that is such a huge problem. Like that itself is a illness. That is like a civilizational illness that we can't like honestly talk about. We can't honestly, scientifically, rationally talk about what is happening because of so many reasons, right? Partially because it's the way that it's by design, by the people that would like to make sure that as things get worse, people are too sick and disabled and walking and unwalking pneumonia filled to organize and resist anything, right? This is I think that this is really what is up to COVID. There's military personnel who have described COVID as the perfect virus. I did a video too about that. This video deals with that, right? A bioweapon, the alien black goo, right? The xenomorph is not the perfect virus, right? Ash is incorrect. The 2020 virus is the perfect virus, right? Because what you can't see is it's kind of like what you can't see coming, what you can't resist, what can infiltrate every aspect of your world and slowly kill you before you know what you're even being killed by, or that you don't even want to acknowledge is killing you, right? That's why Ebola is horribly deadly. It's more deadly than the 2020 virus. But Ebola will never damage and mass kill an entire planet of people, because you can see it's obvious quickly. People can see what it is, what it does. It's hard to allow. It's very difficult for that to rapidly spread through billions of people, right? Like things that kill you in 24 hours or 36 hours or a week, those are actually not. They are not very well adapted, successful life forms as parasites, right? It's actually but the 2020 virus, people will willingly defend their ability to keep. People will jump to get it. They will willingly defend their the right to get reinfected by it. You see how it's the perfect virus in that sense, like because you can't determine exactly where you can't determine, it has plausible deniability built into it. It takes time. You don't see exactly, like with measles, with chickenpox, you can see who has it. You can quickly determine how they got it, right? With the 2020 virus, it takes time, right? You can't see. There's no outward sign. Oh, that person has the virus, right? People can pretend they have a cold instead. 75% of people historically have hidden. If they test positive, they've hidden and they've lied to their friends and family and colleagues about whether they have it, right? Which brings them their own conscience. People's consciences are being rewritten by the nature of it, right? So because it's so deeply invisibilized and stealthy, hard to pinpoint, but though it's hard to pinpoint, it does steadily cause damage and then death. So it really is I'm not saying it did, but if billionaires and very, very sick, very powerful and wealthy people and or a empire's military wanted to create a horrible virus, it is the perfect virus, right? I actually, I don't think that it was, I don't think a particular hegemon is actually that competent. But if they wanted to design one, it is something that will mass infecting everybody again and again and again. It is causing catastrophic, permanent damage to so many people, right? What it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how it came about. That's what is happening. Anyway, so let's finish up because it's 1:24 and get out in time for lunch. So yeah, but just a little bit more on the psychological aspects of that. So like I've already mentioned, the people's willingness to want to the problems to do with like where does the U.S., let's say the United States, go forward after the election? There's a lot. I mentioned I was listening to a lot of discussions about people basically kind of freaking out, people wondering what to do next. Where do we go next? A lot of people are talking about, I'm going to flee the country. I'm going to go to this state or that state, or every 2 to 4 years. This is always happening nowadays. That's a whole kind of worms. Like I don't want to get too deep into, but the same reason that the same misdiagnosis, people like willfully or unconsciously, being wrong on and not looking at the actual data on, the last 4.5 going on 5 years since 2020 and the 2020 virus is similar to why things are going wrong just generally. The same people that are they tend to be 2020 virus conscious people, right? The same people that have been masking, they tend to be at least a lot of the lead organizers to stop the ongoing mass human rights violations, let's just say, in where, right? The mass unalivings in where, but that it's now there's a lot of people, there's a good chunk of people who will say, yeah, we need to free that place. We need to stop sending weapons. We need to stop sending support and aid and cover to that entity to do that horrible mass unalivings. People will it's not everybody, obviously, a lot of certainly the United States is is kind of starting to tear it's starting to tear itself up. A lot of what calls itself the left, progressives, whatever the liberal means. There's big turmoil and like people, questioning who they are, what is happening, why did this happen. A lot of misdiagnosis there. Why did the next U.S. president win? I've seen it's been wild, just like listening to let's just say like non-conservatives, maybe, or maybe non-Republicans. I don't know. There's this whole mass. Like there's like people. A lot of it is like identity crisis. Is an existential crisis. It's a misdiagnosis of who these people even are. Right? Left, progressive, liberal. What do those words even mean? Right? Democrat, and that whole just kind of collect the whole collection of Americans, certainly, they're trying to figure out who they are, what they're going to fall into, what do they do, why did that other guy win, why did we lose, is it bad that we inside there's like, is it bad that we lost, should we have lost, what's going to happen to my abortion, my rights as a woman, a queer person, a non-white person. Obviously I'm a non-white queer native person, so I've been around those conversations as well. But I feel, but one thing is I feel like on that front, a lot of the native people that I'm around, like they're we are not largely surprised. I don't see a lot of soul searching. Not necessarily. I'm not saying we don't soul search, but I don't see a lot of fretting and freaking out about what has happened, why has it happened. Oh, this is so surprising. Oh my gosh, who are we? How do we build a coalition? What I mostly see is hey, no matter which party is in power, we as native people are being disrespected and mistreated. I did a video about that last week on the hula and haka, and how it's not your costume and our resistance, right? So from a native perspective, there's less confusion. It's basically like we've changed to a large extent. We've changed the flavor, the color of that which is violating our rights and oppressing us. But amongst like the non-native, nobody. I don't think anybody really likes Mr. Trump in native community, but they're not like, the same goes for like people in Middle East and around the world. But amongst like people who call themselves people who identify as American, there's a lot of anxiety there, and I think a lot of that is a similar thing, right? Now, the people who have less anxiety about it, right, are the people who have like more accurately diagnosed the problems with their country as a whole, right? And those are also the ones that have been like on the front lines of the stopping, right, the ongoing live streamed mass atrocities, right? And they also happen to be masking, right? But it's but similar to like, it's scary to think that, oh my God, I can't go back to normal because, right? And if everybody goes back to normal, then we're just gonna keep on getting mass sick and disabled until more and more of us die or can't walk or move, and we all have pneumonia, and the economy will collapse. Everything will get worse. Everything will get worse if we continue to act as if it's not normal. But it's so hard and scary because I just like going unmasked to school, work, concerts, play, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and I just want to keep doing it. And it's that those people who can't deal with that and want to run away from the truth is also people that are saying like, oh my gosh, wow, I really don't like our new president, and he's got really nasty people in his administration. But I don't want to address the fact that the people that I thought my country is run by not really, any particular elected official, but like this horrible group of planet-wide moneyed, just amoral interests that have thrown me under the bus this entire time with everybody else to a large extent. And they are going to keep like the illness, right? Like the illness, they are going to keep making my life worse economically, climate wise, military spending and war wise. This small group of very wealthy people and entities, corporations that run my country completely, they are going to keep making my life worse, and they're going to keep making their pocketbooks bigger. And that is like not going to stop as long as I don't like see that for what it is and really consider what I need to do. Diagnose the illness of America as a whole, right? As a political, societal, civilization. I don't want to diagnose accurately my own problem in my country, me individually, how I might be complicit in that by enabling, supporting, donating to one of the two parties that are owned by this horrible, people who are controlled thinning us. And so that inability to address that, right, is leading to also, we're going to go back to some normal, we'll get a better candidate. I just saw Bernie Sanders is going to start his own party. A lot of people are not prepared to accurately diagnose who that person is, right? And so what that's leading to is, obviously, and it's kind of, it's like the 2020 virus. It's so hard to even have like a rational conversation about this stuff amongst Americans, amongst Westerners, amongst first worlders, the majority of them. And that is very dangerous. I mean, I don't know what, obviously I'm giving my diagnosis on a social, political, economic scale there. And obviously I'm giving my diagnosis on in the medical reality, what's happening. I don't know exactly what to do with that. I hope more people, obviously, the system is not making it easier to get to the truth. But I hope that more people try to, it's just kind of like watching. It's kind of like, how long is it going to take until the majority of you, my fellow friends, family, neighbors, how many times do you need to be bedridden? Like, it's so sad, right? Do you need to be unable to walk? Right? Do you need to have non-walking pneumonia on your deathbed? So you go, oh my gosh, those masking people were right. Right? It sucks, because we're watching our own friends and family. I'm watching even some of my own native indigenous relatives and friends. Like, do you remember what happened to us with the smallpox blankets? Like, it's not the first time. Anyway, so yeah. So, anyways, but I don't think that it's not intractable. I don't want to end on just a depressing, sad note, but it more people are going to have to take this more seriously. Ideally, more people take it more seriously. More people face the reality sooner than later. because the later it gets, the more disabled and the more sick and the more unwell people will be who need to be well to do any kind of organizing, right? If you don't take anything away, just that's the most important thing, right? Is that like whatever you think the solution is to Orange Man, climate, stopping sending all the money and bombs to do these horrible things, dealing with economic inequality, whatever you think the solution is to those things, right? Exactly. You can't organize. You can't get out any vote. You can't protest anything. You can't attend an online webinar, right? About about educating people. You can't teach people about the problems with the economic system, right? In some online, even online. If you are so ill that you can't even get to the computer. I want to say that again. I just had an event where 80% of my Silver Spook panel attendees were sick, too ill or nearly too ill to even attend an online event. Not an in-person event. They were so sick they couldn't get to an online event. Okay? So you know what I'm saying? I know there's a video. I can't remember which one I made that said, if you can't deal with the medical, sickness, 2020 virus problem, you can't deal with any of the problems, right? Because virtually all the other problems are going to require mass mobilization, mass people doing things, right? I mean, the big problems we're trying to deal with. I mean, obviously, you can deal with weeds in your yard with a hoe, or you can you can deal with you can deal with sleepiness with some caffeine. But I mean, the big scale problems, right, including dealing with the mass virus as well, you can't do them if everyone is sick. And you can't do that if we keep having unmasked mass gatherings. You just can't, okay? You got to learn, as the great John Connor once said. Why not? Because you just can't, okay? You got to learn these things. Anyway. Thanks a lot to Colin. What's up, Colin? Grant Scarborough, McLovin, Strin. That's a good place to end. I gotta go. There's internet to talk about in this realm, but I feel like I've ended on a good note. But yeah, so in case you don't know, if you're getting pneumonia, just remember that pneumonia is not a virus coming around. It is the result of your body immune system and general health in massive decline, and even more so, reason to not get any more sick than you've already become. And yeah, stay safe. Try to have safe get-togethers. Masking N95s, KN94s. There's many types to wear. It's not, most people can wear them. And clean air. Outdoor gatherings are better than indoor. And let us try to solve these problems together. The end. Okay. Anyways, if you would like to support us, if you find this information helpful, and your streams worth watching, consider direct support through Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/silverspook. You can also help us out in an ongoing way here at the Silver Spook Cooperative through patreon.com/Neofeud, our Patreon site. We definitely could use more support to keep doing this education. As I said, large well-moneyed entities are not going to give us money to help them make less money by insisting on less mass get-togethers in their giant hotels. So please, also we work on video games like Neofeud 2, a retro cyberpunk adventure that is the sequel to Neofeud 1. And you can also help us out to do. Speaking of indigenous people, we are Native Hawaiians here, as I talked a lot about last week. It helps us keep doing land back and restoration of the food and medicine garden here in Hawaii under the continued oppression from a giant country that starts with the letter U. Anyways, and also you get access to the Silver Spook Discord and Silver Spook University, which is the Silver Spook place where we do indigenous life education that combines decolonized history, current struggles, imagined futures, in a time where what do you need to know today? What do you teach your children today? And we have lies about past, present, and future permeate formal schooling. Modern books and media and visions of the future are shrouded in a fog of war and collapse. And hundreds of hours here. You get hundreds of hours of educational entertaining holistically, combining economics, history, politics, and hard and soft sciences. Universities apparently are going to ban anything that talks about race, colonization, anything that talks about they're just banning words, banning topics from American universities and schools at an accelerating rate. So even more so, if you would like to support us to keep doing this work and get education for yourself, and also you can help your own children out with that, then Silver Spook University is at least partially the goal. And trying to contextualize all of this into current events as well. We have and all of these topics. We have no banned topics, unlike many American universities and schools. Have many threads and educational materials for everybody, and yeah, so consider joining to get access to those. And of course, you can also grab, if you play video games, you can get Neofeud, which is a cyberpunk adventure game in the vein of Blade Runner with the overlay of Game of Thrones like political intrigue. It is a retro 90s style adventure game I spent 2.5 years working on as the writer, programmer, musician, and voice actor. And it is a game that is if you have a second to leave even a very short review, it is appreciated because it gets the game discovered more in the algorithm on Steam. You can also get games on itch.io for Windows and for Mac and for Linux. You can get Neofeud over here, and of course you can get it on sale there as well. And there's several other games, and of course you can also get Women, which is a book by Howley, who was raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, and it's a book that critiques that world from the perspective of Mary in the Bible. You can also follow at Silver Spook Games at wandering.shop and or at Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social. On Twitter, you can follow Silver Spook Guy for my personal takes, Silver Spook Games for my games-related stuff. There's also Terminus C is account of a cyberpunk RPG that I'm the content director and the lead writer for. And you can follow Holly at Allergic to Blue, writer, producer, moderator, and more here, married to myself. And parent of two, and directly relevant to what we talked about today. Please mask up if you love your community. Yes. Also, I'm on Blue Sky. I just made a new Blue Sky account. Everyone's on Blue Sky apparently now. Not by everyone, I mean people freaking out about Elon Musk and his buddy, who is in the White House now. But I do have two Blue Skies. I have the Silver Spook Games Blue Sky, and I have also just made the Silver Spook Guy. So that's the Silver Spook Guy Blue Sky is basically like my personal account on Twitter, but on Blue Sky. If you happen to use that, I see a whole lot of people are migrating. I did get followed by like 500 people in the last few days, or last week. So yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that is that. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe as usual. And yeah. Oh yeah, thanks to all the people on this list. Let me read the chat real quick. Yeah, thanks a lot, Strin. Thanks a lot for hanging out, Neuro Riot, and watching. And thanks everybody on this list for your support. Without your support, it's hard for us to keep doing this work. So thank you so much for your Patreon patronage. And yes. Anyways, until next time, stay safe. Keep your mask polished. Not really polished. Be excellent to each other. Don't spread, if you can, spread as few particles to each other as possible. And yeah, we'll see you next time.